Yeah, sure. So welcome to my comments, guys. So this course is related to Git and GitHub. So this is the level one beginner course, guys. What we will discuss in this course. So what is Git, GitHub? What we are discussing in this course, we'll discuss, guys. Okay. Yeah. So this is related to Git and GitHub, guys. A fresher, beginner, and the developers, QA engineers will learn this course. I will tell you what are the prerequisites to learn this course. So before going to the class introduction, myself, guys, I'm Hari Cheruku. I'm a DevOps consultant and solution architect, guys, with 12 plus years of industry experience as a real-time and a trainer. So I have done few certifications, guys. I done something like I'm a ITLVT V3 certified engineer. I'm a Red Hat certified system administrator, and I'm a Red Hat certified Linux engineer, and I am a AWS certified solution architect, and I am a certified Kubernetes administrator, guys. MSCK certified. Okay. So currently working at one of the MNC, guys, as a DevOps solution architect. Okay. So what is the agenda? What we are discussing in this course? We are discussing about the introduction to Git and GitHub, guys. Uses of GitHub, user interface, command line uses of a Git towards to advanced uses. We'll discuss, guys. And what are the prerequisites for this course? None, guys. Everyone can learn this Git and GitHub because of nowadays everyone. So for example, DevOps guy for the infra automation or something like the deployment, the release automation, everything through automation, guys. Means so they are using the pipelines code, something like the codes. So right, the every code will be stored at into the GitHub, guys. This code will be stored under the GitHub repository. And the developers, you already know, right? Developer develop that code and push it to the GitHub repository. As a QA engineer, also QA people also working on the automation, Java Selenium automation, Playwright, Tosca. So right, all the automation code will be stored under the one place. That place is nothing but a GitHub, guys. So everyone can learn this course because of the real time environment. In the real time environment, everyone's code will be stored under the GitHub repository, guys. Okay. So goals and objectives at the end of this class, guys, you should know how to get started with the GitHub, be able to work with the GitHub repositories, find the information and support to learn more, guys. So what we are discussing a module wise, guys, module wise concept. What the modules we'll discuss about the module one, introduction to version control system. So what is version control system? Types of version control system, like centralized, distributed version control system. What is centralized, what is distributed? I will tell you benefits of version control system. Introduction to Git, history of Git and GitHub, GitLab, Bitbucket, GitHub repo. Right. GitHub repo, right? The second module will discuss about the Git installation and configuration. So what is Git, GitHub? You don't know that difference between what is Git and GitHub, right, guys? So we'll discuss GitHub. Yeah. So this is the GitHub, guys. This is the DevOps materials. For example, this is our repository, mine repository. In this repository, having AWS DevOps material, guys, I stored all the material in the this repository. The same like as a what is the GitHub? GitHub is the remote repository to store the data. What is that? To store the data. So what is Git, guys? Git is nothing but I will tell you, guys. No worries. But I'm showing just as what is Git, what is GitHub. So in this here, right? So in our local, you are writing the code. From your writing code to you need to push it to the local repository. So that is nothing. So if you want to push the code from your working directory to local repository, you need to install the Git on your local. So that Git, what is a Git, GitHub? I will tell you. Okay. Yeah. So the Git installation and configuration, installing the Git on Windows. I showed you, right, how to install the Git on Windows, Mac, Linux, Git basic configuration, guys. So username, email address, Git GUI tools versus command line tools. So we can use the Git command line. Command line is using Git Bash, guys. Okay. GUI is using VS Code. Developers and the every automation engineer will work on the IDEs, guys. VS Code. I will show you on VS Code and the Eclipse, guys. Whoever having developers will mostly will work on the Eclipse, right? How to integrate that GitHub repository into your Eclipse or a VS Code. I will tell you that GUI tools also. This Git GUI tools versus command line. Okay. The third module will discuss about the Git basics, guys. What is a Git basics? The third module will discuss about the Git basics. Creating a Git repository, yeah, cloning a repository, Git directory structure, checking the status, adding files, committing changes, viewing history. Okay. So we'll discuss about the third module. So fourth module, working with branches, understanding the branches, creating a branch, switching branches, merging branches, conflict resolution, deleting the branches. Right. The module five is nothing but a Git workflow and collaboration. So remote repositories, Git remote -v, pushing the changes, pulling the changes, fetching the changes, forking, pull request, upstream repositories. Module 6 will discuss about the undoing and the resetting. So Git checkout versus Git restore, Git reset, Git revert, Git stashing, Git clean. Module 7 will discuss about the tags and releases. So how you can create a tag, under tags versus lightweight tags, listing and deleting tags, pushing the tags to remote. Git advanced topics like Git rebase, Git cherry pick, Git hooks, Git ignore, and Git attributes. Ninth one module, Git with GitHub, GitLab, and Bitbucket. I will show you the most, if you know the GitHub, it will be very easy to understand the GitLab and Bitbucket. For example, some companies are using GitHub, some companies are using GitLab, some companies are using Bitbucket. So actually, in my current project, I am working on the GitLab. So previously, I worked on the Bitbucket. So in other project, I worked on the GitHub, right? So based on the project, based on the company, they are deciding their repository. Some people are using GitHub repository, some people are using GitLab, some big companies are using Bitbucket, guys. Okay. Creating a repositories on GitHub, SSH key configuration, collaborator access, issues, projects, actions. So I will tell you just CI/CD, how it works CI/CD. And the real-time scenarios, best practices, Git workflow strategies, Git flow, GitHub flow, team collaboration practices, Git in DevOps pipeline, Git LSS and productivity tips, security in Git. We'll discuss about these 10 modules, guys. So we'll discuss about this 10 modules in this course content. Okay, so I will tell you. Mm, Yeah. So what is this? I need to show, right? Yeah. This is the Git workflow, guys. So the working strategy, staging area, local repository. This is your Windows or your laptop. So these actions will be done on your local, and this is the remote repository. What this is? This is a GitHub, GitLab, or Bitbucket. So this is our local repository. What this is, guys? This is our local repository. So right. Yeah. So what we are discussing in this course, guys, I will tell you. What is this? My comment. The course is right. So we'll discuss about Git and GitHub, guys. So what we are covering in this course? So we are covering Git and GitHub. It is right. Git and GitHub. So you already understood about the GitLab also and Bitbucket. What is that? Bitbucket. Okay. What are the prerequisites? I already told you, right? Prerequisites. What are the prerequisites, guys? Prerequisite is not. Pay attention. Prerequisites, none. Duration. So what is the duration, guys? Duration is 5 hours. So sat. So 2 hours 30 minutes, and Sunday 2 hours 30 minutes, guys. So Saturday 2 hours 30 minutes and Sunday 2 hours 30 minutes. Okay. Who is the trainer? Trainer is, you already know, right, guys? Okay. So I have 12 plus years of experience, guys. Okay. So class timings. What are those, guys? Class timings. So 10 a.m. to 12:30 p.m. Okay. IST. No. So what we will provide, guys? We will provide soft copy and class notes and recorded recorded videos. Will share via Google Drive. Will share via Google Drive. Right, guys. So now you understood, guys. So what we are covering? So we are covering about the Git and GitLab, and I will show you GitLab and Bitbucket how it works. Okay. So what are the prerequisites? Prerequisites is none. The duration is 5 hours. Saturday 2.5 hours and Sunday 2.5 hours. Trainer will be Hari. Class timings 10 to 12:30 a.m. So what we will provide, guys? We'll provide the soft copy, class notes, and recorded videos via Google Drive, guys. Via Google Drive. Yeah. So first, what is a version control system or a source code management tool? What is that, guys? So I will discuss about what is Git and what is GitHub. So before that, what is a version control system or a source code management tool? So version control system or source code management tool. So what is version control system and what is source code management tool, guys? So what is version control system and source code management tool? So what is version control system, guys? Does anyone know what is version control system or source code management tool, guys? Does anyone knows? Raghu, Rohit, Sagar, Srinivas, Rani. Yeah. So what is version control system? So before that, hmm, yeah, this is the user. Yeah. So multiple developers are working on the same location or a different location, guys. So for example, so multiple developers are working on the different location. So for example, some people are working in the Mumbai region, some people are working in the US region, some people are working in the UK region. Okay. So four developers, these all are the developers, guys. So what these are? These are these are developers. He is also developer. He is also developer, and this is also developer. So these developers are working on the same location or a different location. This guy is working in the India. This guy is working in US. This guy is working in the UK. This guy is working in the London region, for example. So these people are working on the different regions. So for example, this is the developer. Developer developed that code. This guy also developed the code. This guy also developed the code, and this guy also developed the code. So they need to push it to somewhere else. Where they need to push it, guys? They need to push it in the some location. No, so these guys are pushing their code to the this repository. So data stored in one location. So this is the developers are developing this, storing this code, right? So how to integrate? So right, these all developers are developing the code, right? For example, so these all developers are developing the code. How to integrate all the developers code at one place, guys? How to integrate? How to integrate all the developers code at one place, one place, and how to track this code. What is that? So the first point is how to integrate. The second point is how to track, how to track code changes. How to track code changes. So in the project, for example, how to track the code changes in the project. Okay. How to track the code changes in the project. So what we need, guys, we need a centralized repository. That centralized repository, that remote repository is, what is the remote repository, guys? The remote repository is GitHub repository. What is that? GitHub the repository. So what is that? So the centralized repository is a GitHub repository. So they are pushing their code into a centralized repository called as a GitHub repository. So how they can push that code, right? How they can push the code? So they can push the code through the, yeah. So here also we need to, what we need, guys, we need a Git client. What is that, guys? We need a Git client. So what we need? So we need the Git client to push the code from your local to remote repository. So what is the remote repository, guys? The remote repository is, so what this is GitHub. So GitHub is the remote repository. What this remote repository, for example, AWS DevOps material. This is the remote repository, and the multiple developers they develop the code and push it to the remote repository. How they can push it? They can push it through the local repository. They can push it from their Git. So what is that Git? This is the Git. From this Git bash, they can develop the code, and so we can push the code to initially push the code from code to your local repository. How they can push the code? They can push the code to, yeah. So here, so they can push the code from working directory to staging to local area, local repository. This is our Git. So from your laptop, so you can push it to the local repository, then we can push it to the remote repository. So what are the remote repositories? Remote repositories are GitHub, GitLab, and Bitbucket. Okay, they can push their code to remote repositories. Guys, understood? What is now, what is version control system? So now you understood about the Git and GitHub repository. I will tell you. So now you just understand about the Git and GitHub, right, guys? Guys, understood? Hello, guys, speak out. Is understood? So what is version control system or a source code management tool? Multiple developers will work on the project development. Developers, what it here? Multiple developers, will work on the will work for a project development. Developers will be working from multiple locations. So for here. All the developers code should be stored at one place. All the developers code should be placed at one place. Right, guys? All the developers code should be placed at one place. So all the developers code should be stored at one place. And to integrate all the developer source code at one place, we will use the source code repository software like GitHub, GitLab, and Bitbucket, Azure repo, and AWS repo. Right? That is nothing but a version control system. Source code management tool. So what are the source code management tools, guys? Git, SVN, these all are the source code management tools are a version control system. So how many types of version controls are there? There are two types of version controls. So one is a centralized version control system. What is that, guys? Centralized version control system and distributed distributed version control system. So what is distributed? What is version centralized version control system wise? This is SVN. SVN uses the subversion is the uses the SVN uses the centralized version control system. Distributed version control system uses a Git. So Git is a more popular because of it's a distributed version control system. Okay, what is the difference between a distributed version control system and a centralized version control system? You see, so centralized version control system. What is a source code management? The management of changes to the documents, computer programs, and large website and other collection of information. So what is that? So that centralized version control system, only one remote repository, and you can directly push the code to your centralized repository. And if something goes wrong on the centralized server, everything will goes down. So that's the reason a big advantage is came then that is a distributed version control system that will be developed by the Git. So what is that? Git. Git was developed by the Linus Torvald, who developed the Linux. Okay. Here what is so we have a local repository also. Here there is no local repository. Our code will be in the local repository as well as remote repository. The code will be available under the local repository and remote repository. If something goes wrong on the remote repository, a local repository will be there. The code will be in the local repository. If something goes wrong on the local repository, the code will be there in the remote repository. That is the big advantage of the source code, that centralized version control system or a distributed version control system, guys. Yes, understood? So, yeah. Now we understood about the version control system. So, what is that, guys? Multiple developers will work for the project development. Project, what is that? So we'll work for the project development and developers will be working from multiple locations. Will be working from the multiple locations and all developers, all all developers code should all developers code should be stored at one place. All developers code should be all developers code should be stored at one place. Okay. So what is that, guys? To integrate all the developers, all the developers source code at one place, right? So we will use the source code, use the source code repository, source code repository, softwares like GitHub, GitLab, Bitbucket, Bitbucket, and etc. So Azure repo and AWS repo, right, guys? So this is nothing but a version control system. What is a Git, guys? What is a Git and what is GitHub? What is Git and GitHub? What is that? What is a Git? So what is Git, guys? Does anyone knows what is Git, guys? What is Git? Git is a version control software. What is that? Git is the a version control software. What is that? So Git download. Yeah. So this is the official website. What is that? So we need to install the Git. Git is a version control software. It's a distributed control system, not centralized, and it is used to track and manage changes files locally. Git is an open source. What is that? So it is used to track and manage the changes and files. So what is that, guys? So how to track the code changes in the project? How to track, guys? Through the Git. What is that, guys? So how to track the changes? What are the changes, guys? Who modified the code? What are the changes? Who modified the who modified, when modified, and where, why modified? Right, guys. If you use the Git, it is used to track and manage the changes files locally. How it track and manage the changes? For example, this guy, UK guy developer, pushed the code to the GitHub repository, and that US guy deleted the code. But we don't know who deleted the code. So how to know how to know who deleted? So how to track the code changes? This changes. For example, this guy is changing the code. For example, our local repository. Let's hit Citibank, Citibank, Citibank. Okay. You see, guys. So here, so this is the local repository. This is a normal directory, but whatever the you see, right, main. For example, this is our local repository. So git log, git log. So these are all the changes. For example, author is Hari. So date, this guy is modified. This guy is modified with username and email, and when it was modified, and what is the message? What is the commit message? What is the messages here committing? Yes, understood. So this is nothing but a who modified, when modified, why modified, right? It will be all the changes will be tracked. Tracked. The code changes will be how to track the code changes by using Git. Guys, Git is a version control software. It's a distributed control system, not a centralized control system. It is used to track and manage the files locally. Git is an open source. So that is a Git is an open source. Yes, understood. What is that? Yeah, you see, it is a version control system for tracking the changes in the computer files. It's generally used for the source code management software. So the developers are developed that code and so through the GitHub server. Yes, understood. So what is a Git? Now you understood, right? What is a Git? Right? Guys, speak out, guys. I don't know, right? If you are able to understand or not. Yeah. What is the Git, guys? Git is a version control system. Git is the ocean control system. It's a It is distributed control system, not centralized. It's not a centralized. It is used to track and manage changes to files locally. To manage the files and changes locally. Yes, understood. What is that? It is used to track manage the changes files locally. Git is uh, Git is a open source. Git is a open source. Now you understood, guys, what is Git? So we can use the Git. So right here, so we can use the Git and we can push the changes. So why we need Git, guys? Git is for to so whatever the developer develop the code, right? That code will be pushed to your local repository. So for this purpose, we need a Git. So if you want to push from your local remote repository to local repository, you can use so GitHub to push the code, guys. Okay, now you understood Git. Now, what is GitHub, guys? What is GitHub? GitHub is the centralized repository to store the code. Centralized repository to store the code, guys. Understood? So what is GitHub? GitHub is a platform which is used to store project related file source code at one place. And in GitHub, what is that, guys? This GitHub is a platform which is used to store the project related file source code at one place. What is that, guys? So that is so this is the GitHub. So here the GitHub, the repository is AWS DevOps material. So we are storing all the data into this repository, this remote repository. GitHub is a platform which is used to store project related file source code at one place. Here all the files will be at there. So right, one place. So what is that? In GitHub, we can create a source code repository to store the project code. Here, what is the repository? The repository name is AWS DevOps material. In the AWS DevOps material, we can store all the data. All developers can connect to the project repository to store all the resource code. Code integration will become very easy. What is that, guys? Code integration will become very easy. Understood? And GitHub is a repository will monitor all the code changes. Okay. What is that, guys? So GitHub repository will monitor code changes, who modified, when modified, where modified, right? So what is that, guys? GitHub. GitHub is a platform which is used to store project related files or source code at one place, right? At one place in GitHub. In GitHub, so we can create a source code repository. We can create a source code repository store project code. Right, guys. All developers can connect to the project repository to store all the to store all the source code. Okay. What is that source code? Code integration will become very easy. Code integration will become very easy. Will become very easy. Right, guys? So GitHub repository will monitor all the code changes. GitHub, GitHub repository will monitor all the code changes. What are those who modified, when modified, where modified, who modified, where modified, and why modified. Guys, understood? Guys, understood? Now you understood about the GitHub and Git, right, guys? Okay. So this is the demo part, guys. So yeah, so we'll wind up now, and so we'll continue after 10 minutes, guys. Okay. Thank you.